family of 4 lived in each home,
you can't afford to buy a home
because $8 trillion of your money was spent fighting Israel's enemies in the Middle East.
Iraq, Iran, and Libya are racing to develop nuclear weapons.
That same $8 trillion could have bought over 34 million homes at $250,000 each. And if a family of 4 lived in each home, 132 million Americans could have had free housing. But Zionists had other priorities for your money.
You are wondering whether you can afford to have another child because childcare is so expensive. Meanwhile,
your tax dollars fund free childcare in Israel for every Israeli child. That's one reason Israel's birth rate is higher than America's. Americans are subsidizing Israeli families while struggling to start their own.
and if you objected, if you had the audacity to ask why your children were being disinherited in your country,
they will call you an anti-Semite.
That's why people are so angry about it.
Work a job that you likely hate and have a portion of your earnings taken from you by our federal government and funneled to the Israeli government so they can commit atrocities in the Gaza Strip. Are you okay with that? Because I'm not okay with that. And nothing gets under my skin more, okay, than hearing these pieces of crap.
And then spit in our faces.
You see these videos of Christians, priests with crucifixes around their necks getting spit on in Jerusalem.
Jewish men and children spitting on
Christian worshipers.
A small child spit on one of the pastors.
Graham, who's laundering money. So let me understand if I got this right. So Lindsey Graham, who's laundering money from the Ukraine war and spending, I don't know, $350,000 to $400,000 for one night on some random hotel in Kyiv, and I'm sure there's no kickbacks coming back into Lindsey Graham's campaign. I'm positive of it. Now we're going to set up an oversight hearing where people like Lindsey Graham are going to be on the committee that investigates Tim Walz for the fraud that's taking place in Minnesota, while nobody investigates Lindsey Graham for the fraud that's taking place in Ukraine. Did I get that right? Now let's jump over to my man, Script Keeper Elect, and he said, they're all in on screwing Americans over. Lindsey Graham spending $400K on lodging in Ukraine. Is that considered fraud as well? Let me know what you guys think. I'm gonna let Script Elect take it from here.
This Lindsey Graham news story is going viral today, but it's much worse than we thought. Hang with me for a moment. So what everyone's talking about is that he spent over $400,000 for hotel lodging during his trip to Ukraine this past weekend. But this is where it gets even more interesting. Nobody seems to be talking about who received the $400,000. So let's take a closer look at the International Business Center and find out how much more money they've received of our U.S. tax dollars over the years. So one of the first things I'll do here is tap the little drop-down menu that says trailing 12 months and change that to all fiscal years. Now, if we scroll over to the right-hand side of the page, we can see a little bit more about who this International Business Center TOV is. We can see their recipient identifier, their address, which of course coincides with this being a foreign-owned business. Now, I tried to find out more information about this organization, but it seems to be non-existent anywhere else on the internet. I don't know who owns it or whether or not any congressional members have any ties to it. If anyone else has information about the International Business Center in Ukraine, drop it in the comments. Let's get back to our search. So now, using the recipient identifier from the previous page, you can see how many of your hard-earned tax dollars have been set aside for spending at this hotel in Ukraine. In total, we've obligated over $36 million to this hotel, and of that amount, we've already sent over $16 million since we first started sending money to this hotel back in fiscal year 22.
And if you think Lindsey Graham's the only one laundering war money, you got another thing coming. Taxpayers every single day. And let's just use ballpark. So let's play a little game, shall we? Let's figure out how much money this fraud is costing the American taxpayers every single day. And let's just use ballpark numbers to kind of get an idea, even though we know it's exponentially higher than that. So let's just say Minnesota, $20 billion worth of fraud. That's just a ballpark number that we've kind of thrown out there and has been circling around the internet just in one state, just really from the daycare fraud. That's not including the NGOs, that's not including the money laundering, the kickback, the money that's getting laundered into political campaigns. None of that is being accounted for, okay? But let's just say there's 50 states times 20 billion. Guess how much that is? That's $1 trillion. So roughly $1 trillion a year, every year, the American taxpayer are losing. But how much does that come out to per day? So as we talk about, and Kash Patel and Pam Bondi continue to allow this fraud to run rampant right under their noses, how much is that costing the American taxpayer per day? Oh, glad you asked. Roughly $2,739,726,027 and some change. So every single day, the American taxpayers, you know, us, we, the tax slaves, they are taking 50 to 75% of every penny we make. And if you don't believe that, you need to watch the video I shared from InfoWars just below here. And it's got a lady of a face. It's like Forbes under 30, the 30 under 30, and it says daycare on it. It's got a Somali lady with her hijab on. So anyways, if you haven't seen that video, I'll leave it linked down below. But it'll really make you wonder, what the fuck are we paying taxes for? If these assholes want our tax dollars, all they have to do is shut down the fraud, and our government's gonna make $2.739 billion per day. That's more than enough. Our government shouldn't need more than $1 trillion a year to operate and function. That should be like the hard cap for our entire government. I'm talking about the Department of Defense, the intelligence agencies, all of it. So if they want our taxes from now on, they can just go ahead and shut down all the fraud, or they don't get a penny from us. Let me know what you guys think. You guys joining this tax revolt? I'm all in. They're not getting a gosh damn penny. I'm not filing. I'm not sending in any paperwork. Kiss my keister. We out. Peace.
This building right behind me has 22 different home and community-based healthcare companies registered in the building. It's only 4 floors. I walked in there yesterday trying to find a number of them. Many of them are just, they appear to be just window fronts, door fronts, with nobody behind. So same story, different location. We're here in St. Paul at this building, which looks like a warehouse or a dilapidated old building. Inside this building, there are 60 registered home and community health care organizations inside this one building. We're here in Northeast Minneapolis, and we're at a building that I believe is on the radar of authorities. They have questions about it. A lot of the businesses in here are home health care businesses. Of the total businesses, there's 37. 17 of them are home health care businesses. There's just layer upon layer upon layer of fraud throughout this city, Jessica. As for whether Governor Walz is going to testify before the Oversight Committee, that remains to be seen. We asked him at his office if he was going to testify, and we have yet to hear back.